Welcome everyone to our fifth session for today already. So this is our fifth session for the online symposium. And just note that we have closed captions available for this session that can be enabled by accessing the CC button. Please also note that there should be a link in the chat to our live captions for today if you'd like to access those via your browser. Now, this session I'm pleased to introduce is Fostering Inclusive Learning, Southern Cross Model Unit Site Standards. And we have Dr. Polly Lai with us today from Southern Cross University. Now, this presentation will go for 15 minutes with a 5-minute break for questions. So over to you, Polly.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Hello, everyone. My name is Polly Lai. I'm a senior lecturer at the Center for Teaching and Learning at Southern Cross University. In today's presentation, I will talk about how we develop this Southern Cross Model Unit-Site Standards to foster inclusive learning at Southern Cross Universities. So today's outline, in the past of 3 years, Southern Cross University has gone through a significant transition in curriculum redesign. So today I will introduce what is the new Southern Cross model first, and then talk about the reason why the new Southern Cross model need these unit-site standards, and what is the framework of these unit-site standards, and how do we implement this within the university. So what is the Southern Cross model? This curriculum redesign, we do the transition to make the changes from 12-week semester system to 6 weeks term. So from the screen, you can see we offer 6 terms per year, and the new students will start from term 1 in early March, and then take 6 weeks to complete. A full-time students will be able to enroll in 2 units for each term. But sometimes based on their capacity, they may enroll only 1 unit. However, they need to complete 8 units per year. That's a full-time student requirement. So we provide students this kind of flexibility to choose in which term they would like to enroll in 2 units and in which term they would like to enroll for 1 unit. In general, a majority of students will start from term 1 or start from term 3 and then continuing the following terms. In this 6 weeks term system, based on each unit, we have 3 components, including self-assessed learning component, and then tutorial, and then workshops. In the self-assessed learning component, students are required to have 15 to 20 hours of study load per unit per week. So students will go through the online weekly modules to do the reading, interactive activities, group discussion, and self-reflection. And then they bring their output to the tutorial for discussion or for feedback. The tutorial takes 2 hours per week, either in person or online. And then also we promote active learning. And for the workshop, it will be online, 1 hour per week. So the Southern Cross University, the Southern Cross Model Unit-Site Standards, we only focus on self-assessed learning component here, because that is the online unit-site. And as you can see, the Southern Cross model is a blended learning mode. So for each week, students will be able to assess the online modules weekly, and then in a collaboration with the workshop and tutorial. And we have 3 assessments, but some unit, they only have 2 assessments for the unit completion. So based on all of this, why does Southern Cross model really need these unit-site standards? So as I mentioned before, it's a blended learning mode. So, and we also focus on self-assessed learning component. So in order to foster inclusive and effective online learning experience for all students, we come out with these 9 main outcomes we would like to achieve through these unified standards. And then you can see from the screen, for example, uniformity, the standards are used to ensure that the learning experience is consistent across different units, different courses, and different faculties. Because some students, they may have a 2 double major in different faculties, and provide students with a reliable and predictable educational experience. And enhance student engagement, the standards are used to promote the inclusion of interactive elements, for example, like discussion forum, live chat, or collaborative projects that keep students actively engaged with the content and with their peers. We also have this academic development. We would like to use these standards to promote the culture of continuing learning performance, professional learning across our faculty members, also to support them have this effective use of blended learning tools and methodology in their teaching practice. And the most important thing is the quality assurance and accessibility and inclusion. So in accessibility and inclusivity, we would like to achieve the equal access for all the students. And also we take universal design for learning into consideration to create flexible learning environment that can accommodate each individual differences. And why we try to thinking about this, because our students from almost everywhere, you will see on the screen, like everywhere in Australia. So some they will access the materials online, or some they will go to the online virtual classroom. And we also have students in China and PNG. For example, the students from PNG, they have no stable internet access. So therefore, we will provide printable and standalone material for them to study without internet access. And for students in China, we also provide Chinese captions in videos to help them overcome the language barriers. So what is the framework of this Southern Cross model unified standards? We take into account and also underpinned by several online learning theories. For example, Moore's 3 types of interaction, Garrison's online community of inquiry, and Bigg's constructive alignment. And then take universal design for learning into consideration to enhance inclusive and effective online learning experience for each individuals. So you can see there are 3 domains in our unified standards. So the first one, teaching presence and communication. This one aligns with the universal design for learning guideline of providing action and impression. So for example, multiple media tools we are going to use to promote that teaching presence and foster the learner and instructors interaction and their communication. And second domain is learning materials and activities. This one aligns with the engagement and representation. So for example, to provide scaffolding and interactions through the weekly online modules to promote student self-regulation, as well as having alternative for visual and auditory information. So for the material we provide, they will have a different form of representation to fit into different learning preferences from the students. And the last domain, constructive alignment and assessment, which support goal setting, like what is if we have a clear unit learning outcomes, and then set up the expectation for students, and then also to help them to plan and then have that strategy development. And by the assessment how we active their prior knowledge and the knowledge they learn by the end of each term. So this is the 3 domain of our UniSci standards. Regarding to implementation of these standards in Southern Cross model, under each domain, we categorize the standards into 3 levels. So you will see the first one, established level, which means it's the minimal requirement for a UniSci before going online. So all the UniSci, before they go online, they need to meet the requirement of minimal standards. And the educational designers in Central for Teaching and Learning will make sure it's all meet the minimal standards before they go online. And second, developing levels means these items are the priority for the first round of the revision. So after they deliver first time before the next offering, we will do the review for the UniSci and then see if anything potential needs or potential enhancement we can do. And the last one, innovative, which means they are more for future improvement. And the user for these UniSci standards, as you can see on the screen, that is the one of the domain details for each item. Actually, it's quite detailed and clear for educational designers and our academic staff as well. Our educational designers use these standards to evaluate uni. Like I said, after the first delivery, they will use that to review the uni or start the conversation with academic staff to address potential need and enhancement, and also reflect back to students' feedback. And our academic staff, they can use these as their peer review tools or their self-assessment tools to reflect on their UniSci design and their teaching practice. So yeah, that's the introduction of our Southern Cross model UniSci standards and how we incorporate universal design for learning into the standards to foster inclusive and effective learning experience for all students. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you so much, Polly. So one question's already come through.
Okay.
So I'm going to attend to that. Actually, we've got another one in the chat, so I'm going to try and keep across this. Please keep putting your questions into the chat as we go. So starting with the chat, we have one. Have you got much feedback from students on how they are finding the model?
Oh, you mean the Southern Cross model? Actually, yes. We already, the old transition already take 3 years. The first year, yeah, honestly, it's not that so good because suddenly students have 12 weeks study period and then shortened to 6 weeks. But slowly from second year and third year become better and better. So, and then we also find out if the year 1 students, when they get into the university and they already experience this 6 weeks term, they quite, it's really quickly to get used to because it's quite intensive. And the positive comment from them is they can really concentrate on just 1 unit or 2 units. If we compare to 12 weeks study period, normally you need to enroll 4 units as a full-time student, right? And then for each unit, you have similar weeks for your assessment due date. So in that week, you may need to complete 4 assessments. And in the 6 weeks term, you may need to complete 1 or 2 assessments. And that's some feedback from students. However, if a part-time students, sometimes they will have a little bit negative comment about they don't have time to get sick, or they don't have time to take care of their children if they get sick, because only 6 weeks, they really need to focus on what they need to learn and then have all the assessment complete within 6 weeks. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Polly. We've got a couple more come through the chat as well. So Kate's asking, where does the responsibility for final sign-off of the unit sit once a unit has been checked against the standards?
The responsibility for final sign-off. So our educational designer will work with academic to design and develop the unit site. As you know, educational designer, they're responsible for the instructional design on the site. And the academic, they are content experts. So the final sign-off will be after we do the QA in our center. To whole unit site, we will run once quality assurance. And then the course coordinator in some university, maybe program coordinator, they will do that final sign-off and check. So actually already go through all the unit site checklist, and then we will provide this document to the program or course coordinator to do that final sign-off.
Thanks, Polly. I think we also have a few more questions here. So Tanya's asking, have you transitioned all units? And if so, how long did this take?
Yes, so far we have been transitioned more than 1,000 units.
Wow.
And it take, I will say the first 2 years is really crazy. Yeah, and this year, the third year, already slowed down a bit. We only have maybe 100 units left. So yeah, it take 2.5 to 3 years. Yeah, but it's not one unit takes 3 years, of course. It's for one unit, it may take 3 months, 3 to 5 months from the scratch until the unit complete.
Thank you. And Nervik's asking, how is meeting of the minimum standard ensured? So is there a checklist to tick or a review from an additional person?
Yeah, there's a checklist. Like you see from my presentation, it's the items, but yeah, we developed a checklist for educational designer and the unit coordinator. And then, of course, it's a 2 people. They need to have the idea on the same page with each items to make sure it's a tick or partially achieve, and maybe something we can do better in the future. Yeah, so all the document will be rated.
Fantastic. And Melanie's asking, when we develop study plans for our students, additional time to submit assessments and or additional teaching support are common adjustments. How does your model address this?
Develop study plans for additional time for submit assessment. Normally the final assessment submission no later than Monday, week 7. But if let's say they have some some reasons for consideration, and then the adjustment time is within a week. So after week 7, that week is a final assessment submission, and for the course coordinator or unit coordinator to do the marking and grading. And then week 8 will be a break. And then another week will be the orientation week off for the next term. So yeah, we will have a 1 week to adjust their time. Yeah.
Thank you. And Liz asking
teaching support.
Do you
mean sorry? Do you mean like student academic skill support, this kind of support? We have a learning zone, so student can make appointment with one-on-one learning advisor based on, like, for example, academic writing or language or mathematics, and that will be outside of their official study time, but it's based on each individual students what they need.
Thank you. Now we've got about a minute left, but another question's come in about how academic or teaching staff have responded to that transition. So how have they responded to this transition towards this model of learning?
It's a very good question. Yeah. at the beginning, not so good. Yeah, of course, no one like to change, right? So yeah, at the beginning, not so good. Because they already used to teach in the classroom, and that's what they used to do, and they are really good on that. And suddenly, a majority of the material you need to have that in online uni side, and that's something for them. It kind of like, really comfortable to do that. So that's why our educational designer have been trained how to communicate with the academic or teaching staff, and to make sure what they really need to do is to make sure the material and content are accurate and up to date, and the instructional and learning design from our center will fully support during this transition. And then
Thanks, Polly. In our last 30 seconds before we wrap up, we've got a question here about how do you sell to people that a course or unit needs to be updated to be meeting these standards? How do you sell it to them?
Students' feedback. I think that's the most direct, like, this is students' feedback and they have these comment and what do you think? Maybe we can do something to improve. And of course, we don't need to be perfect at once. We just need to move forward one step and then make a little bit better, and then we can do the review later on. So yeah, that's all powerful student feedback. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Polly, for this really insightful session.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.